There was a night Neville came to me undone. Not the calm man you've read in the books, not the man who stood before thousands and spoke of the law as though it were as simple as breathing. A young man, shaking, certain that the good he had built was about to be taken from him. He sat across from me with his hands pressed together, not in prayer, but in fear, and everything in him was bracing for a loss that had not yet come. And I leaned in, and I said 3 words, just 3, and I watched the fear leave his body like water leaving a glass. I watched it drain out of his shoulders, out of his jaw, out of his eyes. He went still, and he never feared the same way again. Not because life stopped bringing him hardship, it didn't, but because those 3 words rearranged who he was standing there as. Tonight I'm going to whisper those same 3 words to you, but not yet. Because if I said them to you now, they would sound like nothing. They would sound like a slogan you've heard 100 times. You'd nod and forget them by morning. So first you have to understand why they worked. You have to understand the machinery underneath them. And by the end of this, those 3 words will be the most important 3 words you own. And here is what I want you to notice. In the next few days, something is going to arrive. A bill you didn't plan for. A message that lands wrong. A plan that falls through at the last moment. Something that, a week ago, would have taken the floor out from under you. And you're going to notice something strange. You're going to feel nothing. Still, unmoved. You'll watch yourself not react, and you'll wonder where the fear went. Tonight is where that stillness is decided, not in the moment it comes. Here, now, with me. So let me tell you why you're here, because I know what you've been doing, and I know the exact shape of it. You've been managing. You've been watching your own mind like a guard who hasn't slept in days. Every thought that drifts through, you inspect it. Is that a good thought or a bad one? Am I imagining the right thing or the wrong thing? You've turned your own consciousness into something you patrol. And here is the fear you have never said out loud, not even to yourself. It isn't the fear of failing. You've made peace with failing before. No, the fear underneath everything is this, that the good already came, and now something is coming to take it back, that you don't get to keep it, that you were allowed a taste of it so that the losing of it would hurt more. That's the fear. And I named it before you could, because I have watched this exact fear move through person after person for longer than you have been alive. And I need to tell you something about all your trying, because you have been trying. God, you have been trying. The affirmations, the visualizing, the videos late at night, the watching of your thoughts. And I am not going to tell you that trying is noble. I'm going to tell you something that will sting for a moment and then set you free. Trying is the pattern. Trying is the very thing keeping the door shut. Because trying is a confession. Every single time you reach for the state, you announce that you do not have it. Every time you strain toward the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you declare, with your whole body, that it is not yet yours. You have been fanning the fear with the very same hand you were using to fight it. Neville wrote it plainly. The feeling with which our prayers are charged is the secret of their acceptance. Not the words of the prayer, the feeling. And the feeling underneath all your effort has been lack. So lack is what you've been charging. Now hear me, because this is where it turns. The root of your struggle is not your technique. It is not your discipline. It is not how vividly you can visualize or how many mornings you managed to keep the routine before you dropped it. The root is who you believe you are. You have been trying to fix your feeling while wearing the identity of a man that things happen to, and you cannot out-technique an identity. You can't. You can polish your methods for the next 10 years, and if you are still, underneath it all, a subject, a man to whom life occurs, then the methods will keep failing you, and you will keep blaming yourself, and it was never you. So let me say the thing, and let it sit. You are the power. There is no other. That is not encouragement. That is not a nice sentiment to lift your mood. That is the law. Neville said, man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. Read that slowly. Man's chief delusion, not one of his mistakes, his chief delusion. The single greatest error a human being makes is believing that anything outside his own consciousness has ever caused anything. There is no bill that has power. There is no person who has power. There is no economy, no diagnosis, no delay, no rejection that has ever had 1 ounce of causal power over you. You assigned it that power, and what you assigned, you can withdraw. Let me tell you about Neville and Barbados, because this is where the whole thing lives. Neville was in New York. Winter was coming on, and he ached to be in Barbados with his family, the island where he was born. The warmth, the faces he loved, the whole world of home, and he had nothing. No money, no means, no plausible way that a man in his position was going to cross an ocean and spend the winter with his people. By every visible measure, it was impossible. And his teacher gave him one instruction. One. He did not say, work harder. He did not say, find the money, make the calls, negotiate the passage. He said something that, to the ordinary mind, sounds like madness. He said, do not try to get there. Sleep as though you are already there. Feel the island around you in the dark, not the wish for it, the arrival. Lie down in your bed in New York and refuse to be in New York. Be in Barbados. Feel the warm air. Hear the sounds of the house. Be there so completely that your body forgets the cold room it's actually lying in. Now here is what you would have done, what you are doing right now, in the very situation weighing on you. You would have lain there straining, checking, am I feeling it yet? Is it working? You would have negotiated with God. Please, if you just do this for me, I promise. You would have stayed awake in the wanting, refreshing the wanting, monitoring the wanting, like a man watching a pot. Neville did the opposite. He let the state be true, and he went to sleep inside it. He did not fall asleep begging. He fell asleep arrived, and the way opened. The trip came, unbidden, through a channel he could not have engineered and did not try to, because he had done the only thing that ever works. You must assume the feeling of being that which you desire to be, not want to be. Be. He assumed the feeling of the man already home, and the world reshaped itself to match the man. The mistake was never the wanting. Hear me, the wanting is holy. The wanting is the finger of God pointing you toward what is already yours. The mistake was staying awake in the wanting instead of falling asleep in the having. Now let me tell you why your results have been inconsistent, and I want you to hear this as relief, because it was never you failing, not once. A full night has movements to it. There is the revising of the day, clearing what disturbed you. There is the correcting of your inner conversation, the speech that runs beneath your thoughts all day long. There is the building of one precise scene that implies your wish fulfilled, and there is the falling asleep inside that state. 4 movements, and most people do one. They visualize for a minute and wonder why it flickers and dies by morning. It flickers because the routine was incomplete. That's all. That is the entire reason, not your worthiness, not your faith. The routine was simply unfinished, and no one ever handed you the whole of it. So I wrote something. It's short and it's free. It's called Rewrite Tonight. It's a 3-minute pre-sleep revision protocol. How to choose the 3 moments from your day that are quietly disturbing your sleep. How to revise each one until it's clean, and how to feel that clearing carry you down into sleep. It's free. It's immediate. You can use it tonight, the very night you're hearing my voice. It is the first link in the description below. Open it. Or if you'd rather, comment the single word reset, and I'll point you to it. And when you comment that word, I don't want you to type it as a comment. I want you to type it as a declaration. Reset. As in, I am done being a subject. I am done being the man that things happen to. Type it as the first act of the new identity, not as a request for a link. There is also, for those who want to go further, a complete 7-night, 4-part guided version. It's called the Transfer Protocol. It's $27 through the same link, but you don't need it tonight. Start with the free guide. That's all you need to begin. I mentioned the other only so you know it exists when you're ready. Now, here is the law, and this is the spine of everything, so lean in. Fear and faith are the same faculty, the same one, the same feeling, the same vividness, the same certainty, pointed in opposite directions. When you fear, what are you actually doing? You are believing, with your whole body, in the thing you do not want. You are seeing it. You are feeling it as though it were already real. Your stomach tightens, your breath shortens, your mind rehearses the disaster in full color. That is not weakness, that is faith. Magnificent, powerful faith, aimed at the wrong target. You are praying for the very thing you're terrified of, and praying for it beautifully. Neville said it plainly. Fear is faith in reverse. Sit with that. Fear is faith in reverse. It means your fear is not evidence that you're bad at this. It's evidence that you are extraordinary at it. You can take a thing that has not happened, that exists nowhere in the visible world, and make it feel utterly, physically real. That is the whole art. That is the entire law you've been trying to learn. You already have it. You've just been running it backward. So the work was never to destroy fear. Do you hear the relief in that? You do not have to kill your fear. You could not if you tried, and the trying would only feed it. The work is to turn it around. The same power that made the fear real can make the desire real. It is the identical movement. Same hand, different direction. And this is why the 3 words work. When Neville sat shaking that night, I did not tell him to calm down. Calm down is useless. Calm down is telling a drowning man to relax. I told him to change who he was being. 3 words. I am he. Not I hope, not I'm trying, not maybe someday. I am he. He who already has it. He who already stands on the other side. He for whom the thing is done. I am he. And the instant he assumed it, the fear had nothing to stand on. Because listen, fear requires a subject who lacks. Fear needs a man who does not yet have, who might not get, who could still lose. That is the ground fear stands on. So assume the identity of the one who already has, and the ground vanishes. The subject dissolves, and fear, having nothing left to grip, simply lets go. It doesn't leave because you fought it. It leaves because you became someone it cannot touch. Neville quoted Blake his whole life and made it his own doctrine. Man is all imagination, and God is man, and exists in us and we in him. The eternal body of man is the imagination, and that is God himself. Your imagination is not a toy. It is not idle daydreaming. It is the creative power itself, wearing your face. When you imagine, God imagines. When you feel a thing real, The only God there is has spoken. So now, let me walk you through what all this means, arriving at each thing together, the way I arrived at it with Neville over years. The first thing you must understand is that your fear is proof your imagining is powerful. I know you have taken your fear as evidence against yourself. You've thought, if I were really good at this, I wouldn't be so afraid. You have it backward, completely backward. The fear is proof of your strength, not your weakness. Because look at what your fear does. It takes something that isn't happening and makes it feel inevitable. It takes an empty room and fills it with dread. It takes a future that does not exist and makes your body respond as though it were already here. That is mastery. That is a master class in feeling it real. You have simply been giving that mastery to the wrong master. Feeling is the secret. That is the whole of it. Not thinking, not affirming, not chanting words at the ceiling. Feeling. The feeling does the work. And you already know how to feel a thing so completely, it becomes your reality. You do it every time you're afraid. Let me tell you about a man Neville spoke of. A man earning very little, a modest wage, month to month, with barely enough to cover the necessities and nothing left over. By every measure of effort and circumstance, that man was stuck. And what did he do? He did not work 3 jobs. He did not scheme. He assumed the state of the man already provided for. He slept as the man whose needs were met, whose life was abundant, whose bills were nothing to him. He wore that feeling in the dark until it was more real than his bank account. And the feeling did the work. The circumstances rearranged. Not because he strained, because he assumed. The effort was never the cause. The state was the cause. It always is. So here is what you stop, and here is what you start. Stop trying to stop fearing. Let that whole war end. You will never win it, and the fighting only feeds it. Instead, take the same intensity, that same trembling, vivid, full-bodied capacity to feel a thing real, and simply re-aim it. Point it at the wish fulfilled. You are not learning a new skill. You are turning an old one around. Now the second thing, and this one will change how you pray, if you can receive it. You keep asking because you don't yet believe you have it. I want you to feel the weight of that. You have prayed for the same thing 100 times, 1,000. You've made your request morning and night, with tears sometimes, with real longing, and you've called that devotion. You've thought, look how much I want it. Look how faithful I am. I ask every day. But repetition is not devotion. Repetition is doubt with good posture. If you truly believed the thing were yours, you would not ask again. You do not beg for what you already hold. Assumption, if persisted in, hardens into fact. Persisted in as a settled state, not repeated as a fresh request. Do you see the difference? Persisting in an assumption is living from it, resting in it, taking it for granted, the way you take for granted your own name. But re-asking, asking again and again, resets the clock to 0 every single time. You plant the seed and then you dig it up to check on it, and then you plant it again, and then you dig it up again, and you wonder why nothing grows. The digging is the asking. Every new request is another shovel into the soil. Go back to Barbados. Neville slept once in the state of arrival. He did not beg nightly for a ticket. He did not lie there for a month renewing the request. He assumed the end, occupied it, and let it go into the deep. And the world is yourself pushed out. Whatever you assume yourself to be, the world will push out into visible form. Not what you ask for, what you are. So here is the change. Ask once, if you must ask at all, and ask as one who receives, not as one who pleads, and then live from it, not toward it. Toward it keeps it always ahead of you, always at a distance, always the horizon that recedes as you walk. From it means it is already behind you, already settled, already yours, and now you simply walk out into a world that must arrange itself to match. And now the third thing, and this is the one that ends the fear at its very root. Nothing outside you has ever been the cause, not once. Not the bill, not the person who let you down, not the delay, the closed door, the silence, the no. None of them ever had power over you. I know how it feels. It feels like the bill causes the panic. It feels like the person causes the heartbreak. It feels like the delay causes the despair. But feeling is not fact. The cause was never out there. You assigned the power to it. You looked at circumstance and you crowned it king, and then you trembled before the king you crowned. States of consciousness are the only causes, the only ones. That bill that frightens you, it is not a cause. It is an effect. It is a piece of out-picturing, a photograph of a state you were in. The person who disappointed you was showing you, in the flesh, the state you had been occupying about them. Everything in your world, every last thing, is your own consciousness rendered visible. Man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. There it is again, because you need it more than once. It is the delusion at the bottom of all fear. So stop treating circumstance as cause. When something disturbs you, do not fight the circumstance. Do not manage the circumstance. Do not try to arrange the circumstance into a shape that soothes you. Turn instead to the state that is producing it. Change the state, and the out-picturing must change. It has no choice. It is a shadow, and you are the one casting it. You do not argue with a shadow. You move the body that throws it. Now let me give you the one thing to do tonight. 1. Not your whole life. Do not try to fix everything before sleep. That is the old striving wearing a spiritual mask. One thing. Take a single moment from today that tightened your chest. Just one. Maybe it was a message. Maybe it was a look. Maybe it was a number on a screen or a thought that came at you sideways while you were washing a dish. Find the one moment that clenched something in you. Now wait for the drowsy state, that state right before sleep, when you're sinking, when the body has gone heavy and the mind has gone soft. That borderland, that state, akin to sleep, that is the door. That is where the subconscious is open and receptive, where a feeling planted takes root without the daytime mind arguing against it. Sleep is the door. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and go to sleep in that assurance. And in that drowsy state, replay the moment, but rewrite it. See it end the way it should have ended. See the message say what you longed for it to say. See the number be what you needed it to be. See the person's face soften. And do not watch it like a film. Feel it. Feel the relief of it being true. Feel your shoulders drop. Feel the thing you were braced against simply not arrive, because in this version, it went right. And then, holding the identity of the one for whom it went right, the one for whom it was always going to go right, whisper the 3 words, I am he. And let yourself fall asleep inside that feeling, not straining after it, sinking into it. There is a world of difference between reaching for a state and sinking into a state. Reaching keeps you outside it. Sinking dissolves you into it. Sink, that is one movement. The full 3-minute version, all 3 moments, done in their proper order, so the subconscious carries a clean record into the night. That's in Rewrite Tonight, the first link below. And if you haven't yet, comment reset. Not as a comment, as a vow. Now I want to speak to the fear that shook you this week. The one that rattled you so badly you went looking, and looking is how you found me. I need you to hear what that fear actually was, because you have misread it, and the misreading has cost you. It was not weakness. It was not proof that you're broken, or that the law doesn't work for you, or that you're the one exception. It was the old you fighting for its life, the subject, the one who borrows his power from circumstance, the one who fears the very things he himself has created. That old identity felt the ground shifting. It felt a new self rising up underneath it, and it panicked, because identities do not go quietly. That scream you heard inside you, that spike of terror in the middle of the night, that was not the sound of you failing. That was the sound of an identity dying. The fear was never weakness. It was proximity. You were close. Do you understand what I'm telling you? You were close. The old self does not thrash when you're far away. It sleeps peacefully when you're far away, because it has nothing to fear. It only fights when the end is near. So that fear you took as a sign to turn back was the surest sign you were almost through. You are close. You are so much closer than you have let yourself believe. And now let me speak to the silence, because I know there has been silence. You did the work some nights, and nothing came, and you called that silence delay. You called it absence. You called it proof that it isn't working. Let me tell you what silence actually is. Silence is not absence. Silence is the state setting. Bread does not rise while you stand over it, staring, willing it to move. It rises in the dark, untouched, in a warmth you cannot see into. If you keep opening the oven to check, you collapse it. Your desire is rising in exactly the same dark. The silence you've been cursing is the very sign that it's working, that the thing has gone below the surface, into the deep, where all creation actually happens. Out of sight is not out of existence. Out of sight is precisely where it becomes real. So stop opening the oven. Stop checking. Stop digging up the seed. Let the dark do what only the dark can do. Now let me give you back the beginning, because we're near the end, and I made you a promise. I told you that in the next few days something would arrive. A bill, a message, a plan collapsing, and I told you you'd feel nothing. Still unmoved, and I want you to understand now why that will be true. It will be true because tonight you stopped being the subject. Tonight you learned that the thing arriving has no power, that it never had power, that it is a shadow thrown by a state, and that you are the one who casts it. So when it comes, and it will come, you will look at it the way a grown man looks at a monster he was once afraid of as a child, with something almost like tenderness, because you'll finally know that it can't touch you, because you are no longer the one it was made to frighten. One day, and that day is already decided, it is already set, it is already yours, you will stand in front of the very thing that once would have destroyed you, the thing that used to take the floor out from under you, and you will feel only stillness, a stillness so complete it will surprise you. And in that stillness, you will hear my voice. You will hear me say, "You are the power. There is no other." And when that moment comes, I want you to remember that I told you this, not hoped it for you, told you, because I have watched this law operate without a single exception for longer than you can imagine, and it will not begin making exceptions with you. Man is all imagination, and God is man. You are not waiting on a distant God to notice you. You are the imagining. You always were. Remember that I told you this. Now, tonight you learn to turn fear around, to take the faculty you'd been running backward, and point it at the life you actually want. That alone, lived out, will change everything. But there is a reason most people can assume the state beautifully for an hour and then lose it by morning. And it is the exact opposite of what nearly every teacher will tell you. They tell you to hold the vision harder, grip it tighter, concentrate more fiercely, and that advice quietly destroys the very thing you're building. Because the truth is, you must learn to let it go completely. The letting go is what finishes the creation, not the holding. The holding is the last disguise of doubt. And in the next teaching, I'm going to show you how to release the assumption into the deep so that it can become fact, why the release is the final act of faith and not the abandonment of it, and how the man who can truly let go is the only man the law never fails. That is next. And once you understand tonight, you'll finally be ready to hear it.